Hello again, everyone, and welcome to A Shortstop with a Shortstop. Today, let's talk a little bit about leadership. You look in baseball, you have Mike Trout. Maybe in basketball, you've got Michael Jordan and Larry Bird, and these guys were leaders, and Mike Trout is still a leader. But what makes him a leader? One of the things is their work ethic. They just work so hard at their skills that they try to become as good as they possibly can. Their attitude. They always have an attitude that they're going to be the best. They're going to beat whoever they play, and they have compassion for the game that they play. And compassion is a very important thing to have, and to try to get to that spot that you want to be where you're the world champion. But a good leader always makes the people around him better. And I believe Mike Trout makes people on the Angels baseball team better, and I believe that Michael Jordan, when he was playing with the Chicago, that he made everybody on his team better. And Larry Bird, with the Boston Celtics. There's no doubt in my mind that the people that were around him played better, because they would see these guys doing their conditioning. They would see them coming out to the gym and shooting shot after shot after shot, and Mike Trout taking batting practice as often as he possibly can to stay as sharp as he possibly can. But weak leaders will blame others for their mistakes, but true leaders are humble enough to admit their mistakes. And two of the guys that made some mistakes but ended up admitting that they made mistakes, one of them was King David. After he had a rendezvous with Bathsheba and done some things that were sinful in the sight of God, and literally even had Bathsheba's husband Uriah killed, had him murdered. But if we look in 2 Samuel chapter 12 and verse 13, David is talking to Nathan, and Nathan has already told him what he's done is wrong. And then David responds and says, "Then David against the Lord. And Nathan said to David, the Lord also has taken away your sin. You shall not die." But it takes a great leader to admit when you're wrong. And David was wrong. And David admitted it. And God forgave him. And then if we look in 1 Samuel chapter 15, we look at a man by the name of Saul. He was also a king. He was the very first king of Israel. And in verse 3 of chapter 15, he's getting instruction. And he says, "Now go and strike Amalek and utterly destroy all that he has. And do not spare him, but put him both to death, both man and woman, child and infant and ox and sheep, camel and donkey." He was told to utterly destroy Amalek and all the Amalekites. But what happens? He brings back King Agag, and he kept the choice of all the animals, and he didn't do what God wanted him to do. But then if we look in verse 24 of chapter 15, this was after Samuel had told King Saul what he had done was wrong, that it was better to obey than to sacrifice. But in verse 24 it says, "Then Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned. I have indeed transgressed the command of the Lord and your words, because I feared the people and listened to their voice." See, sometimes we can be intimidated by other people, and we want to please them and try to fit into the world. And I think that's what King Saul was trying to do. And he did that, and he did what was wrong in the sight of the Lord, but he came back and admitted that he was wrong. And that's what a good leader will always do. And if we look at Jesus Christ, the ultimate of all ultimate leaders that's ever walked on this earth, he was a leader. Why was he a leader? Because when he talked, people listened. But not only that, whenever he said something, he always did what he said. And people respected that, and they were willing to follow him. If we turn to John chapter 10, and I'm going to read verse 14 and then 27. And in verse 14 it says, I am the good shepherd, and I know my own, and my sheep know me. If you look at a regular shepherd that's out in the field, he takes care of his sheep. He wants to make sure that they're physically fed. He wants to make sure that they're physically watered. He wants to protect them against wolves or lions or bears or anything of that nature. But Jesus said his sheep know him. And that just tells me volumes about what type of a leader that he was and what he is today. And if we drop on over to verse 27 of John chapter 10, it says, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Now this is the type of shepherd that he knows his sheep. And he knows them by name. And he is called the great shepherd, the good shepherd. And he was compassionate, but he had an attitude, wanting to do what was best for each and every single person on it, but he had that work ethic also. He wanted to go out and preach and try to convert as many people as he possibly could and teach what God wanted him to teach. And that's the kind of work ethic that I want. I want to have compassion. I want to have a great attitude. I want to have that type of work ethic that's going to feed people spiritual food, that's going to get them to heaven. And that's what Jesus wants us all to do while we're on this earth today, is be a leader, a spiritual leader. And if we look at anything today, we always got to go back to what Jesus always said. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. And I love him. And I believe that you all do out there too. And that you want to do what is right in the sight of God and be the leader that you can possibly be too. Let's all be leaders, especially you fathers out there. Thank you again for being with a Shortstop with a Shortstop.